So, another introduction. I'm Susan. By the end of the night, we're going to ask you to all come up here and introduce yourselves, too. No, but seriously, tonight you are here, and I hope as excited as I am to get to know a little better Margaret Trudeau. Just judging, I'm not going to make any great pronouncements by appearance, but it all looks like we're all around the same age. And Margaret Trudeau was, in many ways to young women like me, a hero and also a heartbreaker. We thought Pierre Trudeau was saving himself for us. So, she was born on September 10th, 1948, and you can do the math, which makes her 62 tonight. But as she writes in her book, she was a teenager until quite recently. Next year, it'll be 40 years since she captivated the heart of our bachelor Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau and also of the nation. And then catapulted herself into a life, which we're going to hear about tonight, for which she wasn't entirely prepared. I like the way she describes herself at 22 years old as a heedless, not long out of university, child of the 60s, immersed in the hippie, drug-taking, freedom-seeking culture of the day, which I think sounds pretty good. And while many of us make our youthful mistakes and sort out our messy lives in private, Margaret Trudeau did much of this in public, sometimes because of an overly intrusive media, which I hope we can talk about tonight, but also because she courted some of this notoriety herself during what she now recognizes as periods, manic periods in the life of a bipolar manic depressive. Despite that not insignificant obstacle, she managed to raise 5 wonderful children, amass a loyal group of friends, pursue passions in writing, charity, photography, and television, and become a friend and intimate of some of the most intriguing public characters of the second part of the 20th century. Pierre Trudeau, our former Prime Minister, the chief one, of course. With much courage and candor in recent years, Margaret has decided to speak publicly about her battle with mental illness in the hopes of helping others. In that spirit, she's written this book, Changing My Mind. I know many of you in the audience tonight because you've already read the book or because you want to read it. For those who haven't, I highly recommend it. I've had a lovely time reading it over the last few days. I think one of the best parts about this story is what a layered story it is. There's many things in this tale. You can read it just for the history itself is wonderful, but for the lessons in here of how to deal with a very exceptional life and very exceptional circumstances, it's instructive. I'll wrap it up and we'll get to this interview just by saying that long ago there was this contest, I think it was Maclean's magazine, that said, as Canadian as, and you had to fill in the end of the sentence, and the answer turned out to be as Canadian as possible under the circumstances. I think we're quite lucky tonight to have somebody here tonight who has proved that it is not only possible to be as Canadian as possible under the circumstances, but a bit of a Canadian heroine under the circumstances. So I think there'll be many chances to applaud her tonight, but why don't we welcome her here? Okay. So, do we just start?
Well, say hello.
I think you've got to say hello.
I'll say hello, and thank you so much for all coming. This is such an honor to be here. I can't even tell you. I was so excited. This was the highlight of, I've had a big, big tour. I think this was the first thing booked, Rob told me, my publicist. And when I saw it on my itinerary, I went, oh, at the Reference Library in Toronto? I mean, it means I've really written a book, I think. Thank you.
So I have a loose plan for tonight, and I probably should have told you about it first, but I thought we would start for a bit on an overview of the book, and then we'd go into some of the lessons you've learned, and then we'll go back to your present day and what you're doing these days. How does that sound?
Terrific. Yeah.
And there is a part in the book, I don't know, how many people have read the book?
Oh my goodness.
That's good. Okay, there's a part in the book, I think it stayed with me because you've moved out of your house, moved out of 24 Sussex, you've bought your own house at 95 Victoria Street, and a van pulls up and deposits a butcher's block table, and you make a picnic lunch, and you describe how fun this was. And do you remember what you said in there that this reminded Justin of what he always thought about you?
You've lost me.
Justin,
I better reread the book.
Yeah. Justin said in there that one of his enduring memories of his mother was she would say, "Okay, let's have fun."
Oh yes, have fun.
So I think in that spirit we're going to try to do this tonight. But on the way in here, I noticed too, this is not your first book. This is your third.
Yes, it is my third. Yeah.
And I think it might be a good place to start to tell these people how this book is different from your other two books, because it sort of tells the world a bit how you're different from the young woman who wrote
the
those
first
books.
two books were written when I was in my 20s. The first one, Beyond Reason, was this 27-year-old looking at my life as up to that point, and then Consequences came after. Consequences was, I liked Beyond Reason very much. It was a good story, and it was lots in it, but it was still very light because I had lived so little. I hadn't really understood very much about what was happening to me, and then Consequences, my second book, is the one I'm least fond of because I was pretty angry and bitter when I did that book because things were not going well for me. This book is so different because I can look back at the youthful folly of that 22-year-old who married this 49-year-old prime minister, and all of the things that happened to me after I left him, and the mental illness and how it played a role in what happened to me in my marriage, what happened to me in my life. It all took on a completely different interpretation once I reflected on it as a mature 62-year-old. I started the book when I was just 60. It's a very different look at it. The first ones are young and naive, certainly. There was always, in the first books, when I reread them, I was already aware that I was manic depressive. I was already aware that there was a problem. I just didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't have any tools to deal with it. I hadn't had any of the right treatment, and I didn't know very much about it. And now the story is very different, of course.
What do you say to people who pick up this book and they want to read about your past? You know, there is a bit in there about that, but this isn't a tell-all or
no, it's not a tell-all. And I really had to, as a mature person and someone who I feel that the press nowadays is just, I was the first one, I think, in Canada that got sort of paparazzied, and Pierre was the first one, and then, but just always the attention and people, writing about me without knowing me and making assumptions about me that maybe were true or not true, and I became in the public spotlight. What I see now that's happening is that at that time People magazine wasn't out. It came out in 1974. I was on the cover of it when it first came out, but People was just a page in Time magazine with just tiny little pieces. Nobody invaded anybody's private life. Who knows about Marion Pearson or Mrs. Saint Laurent? I'm sorry,
you?
Who was pregnant. Oh, I have one or two stories. Her greatest line was, "Behind every great man is an astonished woman."